Hi there, this is Briana Theroux from over at Fit Recovery. We are going to talk about some psychological aspects of addiction. Biochemical and physiological repair is at the cornerstone of everything, right? So I am guessing that you've watched some videos. If not, head over to the Fit Recovery YouTube channel and watch some biochemical repair videos as well. But today we're going to focus on the psychological aspects and cognitive reappraisals, implementing rational emotive behavioral therapy, and the differentiation between reasons and causes, right? A lot of people think that you're caused to use, meaning that you have triggers that make you use, which is not true. A cause and effect relationship would mean that every single person that has ever came into contact with alcohol would drink it, right? And we don't see that. So the difference is that you have reasons for using, and that's why I don't see alcohol addiction as a problem with anyone. No, it's not. You're not broken. You're not a broken human. You're not a POS, like none of that nonsense. You just have reasons and beliefs on why it benefits you. And so that's where I take my clients. I want to know why. Like, why are the reasons that you feel that it's pleasurable, right? Each and every person is fundamentally a unique human. And addiction recovery requires a personalized approach because of that. A lot of the recovery movements like AA or some of the rehab societies or whatever, they think that everything is a cookie cutter and they can treat every single human the same way. And it's like a mill, right? You come in, you come out, and you should be fixed. But the problem is that most people relapse, like 90% of them. So it's obviously not a cookie cutter thing like that. And so we need to find out the reasons why you're drinking or using, or even behavioral addictions play in here, like gambling, sex. There's numerous behavioral addictions, right? Like binge eating, there's tons. And so we're going to go over some of the reasons and what you can do to test those out, like find those. One of the first things is pleasure, doing a pleasure inventory. So what gives you pleasure in life? For many people, when they reach for alcohol, they're looking for that pleasure, right? They want to feel good. Those neurochemicals, though, only last for about 15 minutes, and then you're fixing a withdrawal the rest of the time. So you don't get a lot of pleasure. So it's really not a good source of pleasure, right? A lot of humans, they have a fear of pleasure and a disassociation from receiving it. And this is the primary obstacle to your addiction issues. Our emotional reactions around pleasure are often ignored due to the getting shit done and all that mindset of go, 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 right? We need to produce instead of we need to take a time out and we need to address what makes us feel pleasure in our lives. I'm a big fan of journals, so get your journal out and write down things that give you pleasure outside of your addictive behavior. And we need to work pleasure practice into our days before that. A lot of people have cravings around 5 p.m. or when they get home or get off work. Some people do right in the morning. And that's a different situation altogether. And I still think you should be working in other pleasure practices if that's your current situation, because we want to choke out the not helpful stuff, right? And what I mean by that is that we overcrowd the unhelpful behaviors with helpful behaviors. So this still applies. And you need to give yourself permission to experience pleasure when it comes to things outside of drinking. Like, we have a lot of beliefs that we're supposed to be grown up and mature and not be happy ever. And that's silly. We have to have pleasure outside of drinking and whatever, right? One of my favorite things to do is exercise or yoga. Those are the things that give me pleasure, but not everyone will be there. If you like writing, if you like drawing, anything, walking out in nature gives you that pleasure bliss feel. Write it down. Write down alternative activities. Put it on your fridge. The next one is de-stressing in the personal realm. Lifelong childhood habits and unconscious programming push many people immediately into a physiological stress response. Whenever they get home, especially, like they're just like, I need to take myself down 100 notches because I've been up here all day. And so we want to prevent that from the beginning. But it's easy when you've worked in fight or flight. The simple sight of alcohol like gives us that breath, right? Of fresh air. And we want to reframe that. We want to get you to do something else in place of that. That stress can often, like the stress of quitting a substance too, can give you an unconscious like restriction thought. And then you end up binging more. I'm sure there's some people here that have experienced that, where you try to quit a bad habit, you do great for a few days, and then you end up binging way worse than you were doing like when you were just moderating, or I don't call it moderating, but your use was lower, right? And that's often what leads to like ODs or alcohol poisoning is because people were trying to quit and they went off the rails. And so we want to frame it in a way that we're not restricting it too. And so by doing that, you need to look at it as something that you genuinely do not want anymore. Restriction only happens when you want something. And so write down the reasons why you don't want to engage in this behavior anymore when you're stressed. There's nothing quite like the comatose feeling that you get and the instant chill out from taking in a bliss behavior, right? Like anything. People that have sex addictions do the same thing with that. People with alcohol addictions just drink to numb out all those feelings, right? Do an inventory to address the root causes, because doing these neurochemical and biochemical repairs are very important, but we need to get to the root so you're not having cravings 6 months after you've done the biochemical repair, right? You need to make a list of your stressors. Usually it's in relationships. So your primary relationships, your family relationships, your spouse, your children. Write down what stresses you out and how you can address that in a healthier way. Work and money is often a stressor as well. Write down what you can do to rectify that. A lot of times you're in a job that is stressing you out to the point that you're not going to be able to easily break out of addictive patterns. Yes, you can break out of them, but it's your physiological stress response and your catecholamines are so high through the day that it's going to be like a white knuckle experience even if you repair your biochemistry. So sometimes you need to look for a different job in your off time. I know most people can't just quit their job, especially with all that's going on in the world today, but you need a plan to direct yourself in a different way, right? Family, extended family is often another stressor. Like I'm talking in-laws and whatnot. You need to have boundaries. And that's how you engage in those relationships healthfully, is by setting boundaries. A lot of us, we have a hard time saying no, and that's why we have addictive tendencies, right? We just want to make people happy. And so we're like, okay, I'll have another drink. You need to say no. You need to learn how you need to take care of yourself first so you're around, because if you're dead, then you're not going to be help to anyone, right? And so you need to prioritize that. You need to explore these key domains in your life to see where things are stressing you out and where the common denominator is, and try to rework that, renegotiate it, reframe it, right? Maybe it's just some cognitive biases that you have going on and you fall for the negativity bias, which is that we focus on everything negative in that situation, right? That's extremely common because we're wired for it. Are these behaviors self-chosen? Like, are you choosing to continue in a relationship with someone that you know is not suited for you and that is stressing you out? That's something you need to evaluate, because if it's causing you to do self-destructive behaviors, then maybe you need to rethink the relationship, right? Is it a low-level, constant stressor that is unavoidable? Then things like exercise or walking outside, or have an alternative route that you can go to instead of drinking. A cost-benefit analysis is really important here. And so what I do is I do a T table and I pick a behavior and I put the costs and benefits. And a lot of people with the drinking, they will fail to list out any benefits, which is not true. And this is often what leads to drinking again later on down the road, is because you did not renegotiate the benefits of that. Because you're like, I don't get any benefits. It's ruining my life. Well, you are getting some benefits or you wouldn't keep engaging in the behavior. So be honest, do an honest inventory and see what you're getting. Are you getting that 15 minutes of pleasure? Are you getting so numbed out that you just don't feel and that's what you desire? Write that down and renegotiate why that's incorrect, right? Seeing it on paper is extremely important. And this is why I keep saying journaling, because our brain grasps onto information a little differently when we see it written down and when we have pen to paper rather than typing. I mean, some people like to type out and that's fine, but I think it's cemented in the brain, and it's been shown in the research to be quicker in memory recall when you write down stuff. So the next one is achieve the end results now. I do not like identifying with the word alcoholic. Some people might find it helpful because people don't pressure you, but that's an archetype that you're going to embody for the rest of your life if you keep calling yourself that. And a lot of times people relapse because they have given themselves that label and they feel powerless to resist anything instead of framing it as a choice, right? It's a choice that you're engaging in deleterious behaviors or not. It doesn't feel like a choice sometimes, but it always is. And it's probably years and years of you negotiating these reasons. And so it feels like you haven't had a choice, but it is, you've conditioned your subconscious to choose this. And so hating the experience that you're having too is also saying, I reject this body and mind given to me, and I'm at war with myself. I'm no good. I'm not enough. I'm unlovable. I have this addiction that is making me a horrible human. We need to reframe that to, I am a human that is going through this troubling experience, but I'm learning so much about myself that other people don't even get the opportunity to learn at this depth, right? We need to reframe it to learning. And so embody who you are, like identify as someone that is health conscious. That's a big thing when I was changing my habits around alcohol or whatever other addictions I had. I've had a great garden variety myself. I will identify with being really healthy and sports focused or athletic. And so people don't really push it on me the same as they wouldn't push it on an alcoholic. But they're like, she's a health nut. She doesn't do that stuff. So I embodied it, even though I wasn't completely rid of my bad habits yet. They didn't completely grasp that yet, but I embodied the archetype of being a health nut. And so that's helpful when you're going into that. Don't wait until you've been free from alcohol for 6 months before you start claiming that you're just a health nut or whatever, you're a non-drinker. Claim it now. Claim it now and then embody it while you're doing it. And if you slip here or there, that does not mean that you lose that archetype. Like, you keep embodying it. The next one is creativity practices. I'm sure we've all ate or drank things when we're bored and we should be doing something creative. What happens with boredom, it's usually lack of creative outlet. And so what I do, I'm a writer, and so I enjoy writing for my creativity practice, but other people enjoy doing lawn work or artwork or playing guitar. Like the human consciousness is meant to create. We are creators. Like women create human bodies, like out of their body, like we create. And so what do you feel passionate about? Business, music, art, traveling, writing, reading, dance, martial arts, scrapbooking. We all have something that hits our dopaminergic system that doesn't relate to alcohol. And so we need to find it and we need to create that, right? The next one is explore sexual wounding and healing. This topic is very taboo and uncomfortable for many to address, but it's at the root of, I would say, more than half of my clients' addictions. It's usually rooted in their sexual experiences young, molestation. Many people want to protect themselves and numb out to their memories. And so if that's you, there's definitely some books that you can use for trauma recovery. Trauma does not cause you to use, though. It is a reason. And so that's a big differentiation. And what I mean by that is that a lot of people have had like sexual trauma in their life and they don't drink. They don't use drugs. And so we can't say it's a cause and effect. Everyone with trauma does not do these behaviors. So what gives you the reason to do that? Do you think it's going to numb the feelings? With trauma, I'm a huge advocate of post-traumatic growth workbooks. There's also, here's one of my favorites, the self-compassion skills workbook. Dialectical behavioral therapy workbooks are really good here too. Many are simply shut down in a complete fear response around their sexuality though. And I find a lot of women feel like they have to drink to be intimate with another person. And if that's you and that's what's stopping you from pursuing sobriety, then we need to uncover that. Yeah, it's going to be awkward in the beginning, but it's like riding a bike, like you learn a new skill. I don't mean to sound dismissive, but it is a habit and we get used to it, right? Another one is trying to be disassociated from the body with our sexuality, right? We tend to be alienated from sexuality, afraid of expressing things. And so we tend to drink to get the freedom to express ourselves. I like to call it the license to misbehave. Our subconscious wants us to misbehave. And so we think that by drinking, we know it shuts down our rational brain, right? And so we do it knowing that we're going to misbehave and act kind of like we truly want to, but don't want to feel shame about it, right? And so you need to renegotiate that stuff too. Self-expression is often paralyzing for those who have rejected their body, but we need to embrace that. And so my biggest thing is grabbing some workbooks and work through your trauma to reframe the ideas around it causes you to do things. Like it doesn't ever cause you to do anything. The magic sauce here is when we align ourselves with our greatest expressions in life and become the person we are truly meant to be and heal our faulty perceptions, then our addictions usually fall to the wayside. Obviously, this is taking into account biochemical repair. That is number one. But undoing these reasons why is going to get you a lot further. Okay, so that's it for today. Head over to Fit Recovery and check out the blog. I offer coaching over there too. Chris has a great program called Recovery 2.0. If you like the video, give us a like, subscribe, and I'll see you later.